From the Nick and Izzy Network Studios in New York, this is The Hirsh Show. Tonight's guest, from Bear in the Big Blue House, Noel MacNeal. And now, here's your host, Kyle Hirshon.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Hirsh Show. My name is Kyle Hirshon. I am your host, and thanks for checking out our last episode with Dream Street's Greg Raposo. If you've missed that episode, you can check it out at The Hirsh Show on Facebook, on Twitter as well. And if you want to listen to the audio version of it as well, you can listen to it on buzzsprout.com. We've got a treat for you today. My guest today has made millions of children around the world, including myself, very happy and even smarter whenever we were told to either just say ow or do the bear cha-cha-cha. From the iconic children's television series, please welcome Mr. Noel MacNeal.
Hello.
So, Noel, for those who don't know who you were the voice and the operator of said bear, right?
Right. I've never heard the term operator. Usually it's puppeteer, but yes, I guess it was the operator. That was the guy inside.
Exactly.
And I was doing his voice and manipulating him at the same time. So, yes.
How did that work? Did you have like one hand up here and you had another arm like controlling the arm?
Yeah, I call it the Big Bird technology because it was the same way that Carol Spinney did Big Bird, and he was my mentor. So he pretty much taught me like everything there was to know about body puppetry. But
wow,
it's the same thing. So I would have like a little TV set like strapped to my chest with a microphone, and I would look down and I would see Bear. So what you saw at home, that's what I saw.
Wow.
Look down, and that was my only vision. I couldn't see out, so I saw Bear, and then my right arm went up into his neck, into the head. And this little finger did like the eyebrows.
Oh, wow.
And then my left hand went into his left hand. And then if you look now on all those like videos, you might notice that there was a very, very thin concealed string from his wrist going through this ring to the other hand that was stuffed. So this way, when I moved the left one, it was just counterlevered.
That's so cool.
And we had different lengths. So like when Bear would do a song and his dance, then we would use a shorter mono thread. So
gotcha.
Way, no matter what I did, it always like went up and down. So
gotcha. Especially like when doing the bear cha-cha-cha, you have to have those fast arm movements and stuff.
Yes, exactly. Just keep it going. Just keep moving.
So for some of our viewers and listeners that may not necessarily know who you are, your likeness and all that stuff, tell us what else was on your resume besides Bear?
Before Bear, I'd been pretty much, I'm proud to say that my resume is most people's childhood memory. So I've been doing this way too long. So I actually started on Sesame Street. I actually started as the wrangler, the person who takes care of the puppets.
Okay.
And then I transitioned to like background performer. So I was like, an anything Muppet in the background, or a second chicken from the left, or a third grout from the right, or assisting the other puppeteers. And then my first actually starring role in a series was this Nickelodeon series called Eureka's Castle, which premiered in 1989. And I was Magellan, the dragon, who was a body puppet too. He was like, what's we call it, like he was like half body. So you never saw his legs.
Right.
You saw him from the waist up, but he operated the same way. And I would put my arm up inside his head and my other hand inside his hand. And again, had the little monitor strapped to my chest, and only way I could see out. That's it. Had no other way, no other vision.
That guy didn't like
what I saw.
That guy didn't like run into anything. I'm sure that may have happened, but we never saw it, right?
No, and actually with Magellan, the other puppeteers, they were hand puppets, and so they actually stood and held the puppets over their heads. So Magellan, I was actually on these platforms that were like strung together, and it had these boards on the sides. This way I could feel with my feet, like, not to take too many steps to the right or to the left.
Okay, yeah.
And the same thing with Bear, because the entire set, the entire house, was actually raised up on this platform that was like 4.5 feet high.
Wow.
So you could pop pieces of the floor out so the puppeteers could stand inside and hold the puppets up, and then Bear could stand next to them. But again, they had these like little boards on the end. So this way, when I walked, my feet could stop, and I didn't like, crush my co-stars. So
Yeah, I never really thought of that because I'm like, there's no way Bear could go like this and see Tutter just all the way down on the floor.
exactly. So it was like, yeah, it's like one of those times where like, Tutter's obviously, standing on stilts or, yeah, or like very stretchable legs that he has. So,
Speaking about Eureka's Castle, there's an interesting story that kind of relates to what I've seen. One of the sometimes I think you've had like guests on, and there was one band that came on called, I think they were called Squeaky Clean.
yes.
They, every time they would come to my school all the time, and they would do like concerts, and it'd be like the Beatles. I mean, everybody would start screaming, and it's just like, okay, it's a husband and wife duo, one with an upright bass, one with a Gretsch George Harrison style guitar, and everybody's jumping up and down like biblical locusts. And then I see them performing on Eureka's Castle. I'm like, that guy sounds familiar. And of course I did my research. I'm like, oh, it's Bear.
I was like, oh, that guy. Yes, there was a time in because Bear premiered in 1997, and Eureka's Castle was still running on Nickelodeon.
Oh, really?
On in like we did our second season in 1990, and the 3 specials, and then that was it. But they just kept running it.
Right.
And then the other series that I worked on in the mid 90s, which premiered in 95, was called The Puzzle Place. And so I was a character on The Puzzle Place named Leon, who was from New York. He was like a little kid.
Right.
So at some point around like 1998, 1999, here in New York at least, at 10 a.m., all 3 shows were on at the same time for like over a year. So I could switch from like the Disney Channel with Bear to Channel 13 with Puzzle Place to Nickelodeon to see Magellan. So I was pretty much running the gamut from A to A minor. I'm a bear. I'm a dragon. I'm a kid. That's it. So like,
and then at some point you were Keiko from Ubi.
Yes.
As a kid, I'm like, once again, that sounds familiar. And I never really thought about it until maybe today.
Putting the piece together. Wait a minute.
Yeah, this guy's everywhere.
This guy was my childhood. There was no show he wasn't on.
Exactly. Most recently you've been active on TikTok and Instagram. You were doing a lot of stuff, and then you have the little bear puppet. I mean, even cameos. What's like the typical reaction you get from people watching this?
My son, who's 15, going on 42, he says he wishes we could get $1 for every time the word childhood is mentioned. It's like, oh, you were my childhood. Thank you for my childhood. This reminds me of childhood. Oh, I haven't seen this since childhood. Just like again and again and again.
But it just never gets old, right?
No, exactly. And now, like, the kids who watched Bear are now having their own kids. So now I'm getting like, because I do requests on Cameo.
Yes.
And now they like are introducing their kids to Bear. So starting like a whole new generation visiting the Big Blue House.
Now there's this big trend of nostalgic, especially children's shows, because I've seen people like Bob West. I saw you were recently on Carrie Stinson's podcast, Purple Roads.
Yes.
It's so there's so many things going back to. I mean, I was born at the tail end of '96, so I was just around when the beginning of Bear started. So I mean, this was like, once again, my childhood, but dang, $1. And so what got you hooked on to puppets and puppetry as an art form at itself?
When I was growing up in New York City in Central Harlem, there were much more puppet shows on TV when I was growing up. There was like Captain Kangaroo, there was Mr. Rogers, there was Sherry Lewis, and her ventriloquist sock puppet named Lamb Chop.
Yep, Lamb Chop.
There was another ventriloquist, Paul Winchell, and he had a show called Winchell Mahoney Time with Jerry Mahoney. And Paul Winchell later on became the voice of Tigger, the original voice of Tigger for the Winnie the Pooh
cartoons.
And he also invented the artificial heart. So puppetry saved lives. So
I'm a trivia guy, so now I could use that.
there you go. So next trivia night, when you're allowed back inside a bar, use that.
Yeah.
And then when I was like really little, that's when on Channel 13, the public television station here, there was this special, half-hour special introducing this brand new show coming on tomorrow morning called Sesame Street. And it was introduced by two puppets. I'd never seen that kind before. And one, his head was kind of shaped like a banana, and the other one was kind of shaped like a football. And the names were, of course, Bert and Ernie. And they showed scenes from Sesame Street, including Big Bird at that time, which was just amazing that this puppet, this huge character, could actually walk around and talk at the same time. And it was astonishing. I'd never seen that before. If you want to see something truly frightening, kids, go to YouTube, type in Big Bird first Sesame Street episode, and you'll see a Big Bird that is nowhere near the Big Bird you grew up with.
No, because it's like when I see it, I see like, he's bobbing his head. He sounds like Goofy.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's when Carol Spinney, who did Big Bird, suggested to the writers, why don't we have him reflect the audience, like, because at that time, Sesame Street was geared for 3 to 6 year olds,
right?
And so Carol suggested, why don't we make him like a 6-year-old? So that's when Carol developed a much younger, sweeter voice, and then design-wise, they just like smoothed out like everything. So this way, Big Bird was much more presentable.
Exactly.
Same thing with Snuffy. You ever see Snuffy's first appearance? That will cause nightmares.
Yeah.
Changed him too. So
I'll be sure to show my 4-year-old niece about that.
Yes, exactly. This is not the Snuffy you remember.
No. And what made you think that, puppetry could, be something you could do for the rest of your life?
Well, by the time I was in high school and trying to figure out like college and all that, that was the height of the Muppet Show.
Right.
And I saw, and even before that, I was watching Jim Henson and the Muppets make appearances on all these shows and doing specials like the Frog Prince and Hey Cinderella and the Bremertown Musicians and the Great Santa Claus Switch. And then, of course, I kept watching Sesame Street, even though I knew the alphabet by the time I got to high school.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, New York City Public Schools. So at that point, that's when I realized, like, they're doing this half-hour variety show. I thought, well, maybe I could do this for a living because Jim Henson's doing it and all these people are doing it. So I did research the old-fashioned way. Back then, there was no internet or computer or Google. So I had to go to the library, which is still around, by the way. It's like Barnes & Noble, but it's free. And I went in, I did this research, and I found 2 colleges here on the East Coast. One is in the University of Connecticut in Storrs, Connecticut, which to this day still has a 4-year puppetry program where you can get your master's degree in puppetry. And the other was here in Brooklyn, and it's Pratt Institute. And at that time, there was a theater department. It's not there anymore, but there was a theater department. And within the theater department was a puppetry course taught by one of the designers and builders of the Muppets. In fact, he built Big Bird and Snuffy, and his name was Kermit Love. And no, the frog was not named after him.
I figured, I've heard the name before.
Yeah. So I had everything all set up, like all my research ready, and I was going to present it to my mom. Now, my mom was a single mom because my father left us, walked out on us when I was 18 months old.
Oof.
And so she was raising me and taking care of her mom and her uncle and working down 2 jobs and making sure that I went to a private school to get a proper education. So now I'm presenting this to this single woman who works like 7 days a week. And I said, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to be a puppeteer.
Back it away in case she brings out the shoe.
Yeah. And she said, okay, what do we have to do? And I said, oh, okay, well, I've got this school and I've got this school. So, okay, what do we have to do? It's like, well, this one requires this and this one requires that by that time. Okay, what do we have to do? That's all she kept saying. She never belittled it. She never dismissed it. She never said had a backup. She's always told me, because she was a typist for like 30 years, like in a private secretary. And so she said, don't get a job. You can always get a job, get a career. And so that's what I set out to do. And she said, and if tomorrow you want to become a lumberjack, we'll figure out how to do that. So
I think that's really cool, having a supportive parent, like that at all. Because unfortunately, there's somewhat of a big stigma. There are some parents out there, they want them to do what they want to do, but not what the child wants to do. Unfortunately, you don't see that much.
No, you don't. So I was very, very lucky that I had somebody who supported me right out the gate. And also very gratifying that she got to see how much I succeeded. So
exactly.
in doing it. So
you got to go all over the country in this giant bear. You got to go to baseball stadiums, malls. I remember, I don't know if it was you in the suit, but there was a Target that opened up in like 98 or something. And I was like, maybe 2 or something years old. My mom takes me and, we're taking pictures with Bear. I doubt that was you in it.
I don't know. I did do like store appearances.
Because
the early days. So do you know where the Target was?
This was in Comac on Long Island. I'm a New Yorker. So.
Oh, okay. So it probably wasn't me because there was PR Bear, the public relations bear,
right,
who would go and he wasn't allowed to talk. So he could just like smile and like.
That's probably what it was.
But I did do store openings. In fact, when the Bear products started to come out, I would do openings. And there was, at that time, there was the Disney store, the flagship Disney store on Fifth Avenue. It was this huge, beautiful store on Fifth Avenue, like with 3 stories. And you could actually on the 3rd floor, like look down and see the 2nd floor. And they wanted Bear to make an appearance there to help promote like the product lines that was coming out. And so they advertised it to other Disney stores in the tri-state area.
Right.
And so, with little flyers like, come on this day to New York's Disney store and meet Bear. And so my Wrangler, like showed up early to set things up, and they walked us through, and they had this like little, dry erase board with the plan up, and like people could line up here, and we'll give them numbers. So this way, if they want to go browse, they can come back and they'll know what spot they're in line.
Right.
And my Wrangler are like, okay, sure.
So it's like, how many people did you expect to show up?
Well, they expected about like maybe 200 to 300 people.
Right.
Over 2,000 people showed up.
Of course.
To the point where they had to close the store twice and not let anybody else in.
So this is the problem with some of these stores. They completely underestimate some of this stuff. This is a new thing that's become so popular, and not for nothing. I have Pop right here. So
oh, there you go.
we got a bunch of Bear stuff, and we like sold it all because I was getting too old. But then we kept, out of all the things, we kept Pop.
Pop is cool.
Pop's cool. Yeah. Screw you, Pip.
Which Pop would say.
This was something that I'm sure everybody wanted to see. Because I was also checking out Purple Roads with Bob West, as a guest, and the same scenario happened when they expected a couple hundred people at a mall, but yet like 6,000 people showed up at a mall, just see Barney.
People would. I did an appearance at FAO Schwartz because they had a whole Bear line, FAO Schwartz, and I did a certain like amount of time of like meeting and greeting, and then like that was it, and like Bear started to walk away, and I could hear. It's like some sort of commotion. I looked back, and I saw this like dad with his kid, and he was arguing with everybody. So Bear just like walked back over. It turns out this man had driven like 2 hours with his kid to see Bear, and Bear put his hand on his shoulders like, hello, how are you? Thank you so much for coming today. Like, would you mind taking a picture with me? And afterwards, he just like, he said to the Bear, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And they didn't believe that it was really you.
Yeah, it's just like, well, it was like one of those things where, when I'm Bear, so I was allowed to talk.
Right.
For, after the popularity of it, I always wondered, and Muppets was wondering too, like, Henson was wondering too, like what could there be an attraction at Disney World there? And so I would always go to Disney World for New Year's with my family. And I said to Henson, you know what, if I'm going to be down for New Year's, if you send like Bear down and with Andrea, that while I'm my wrangler then, I'll do a meet and greet and we'll just test the waters and just see if it would be popular. And they were like, really? It's like, yeah, just do it. So they did. They sent them down. We were staying at the Yacht and Beach Club. They put up Andrea over at the boardwalk. Yeah. And
of course.
Of course. And so then we just did this, like, not announced or anything. We did it at the studios because it was figured that of all the parks, Bear would most fit best at the studios.
Yeah.
Since it was a TV show. And so have it at the studios. Plus the studios needed more like kid-friendly stuff. Yeah. So then I got dressed, and then there was this wall, this space between the Chinese theater and the entrance to the animation court. So this wall, just a bare wall. And I walk around the corner, and I stand in front. Bear stands in front of the wall, and then the two people from Henson and Brick Bell, who's like I call him like the power of the plaid. He's one of the plaid people that
right. The suits.
Yeah, and it was there, and he stood on the side there, and Bear just like stood there, and we didn't announce anything. We just like stood there, and people were like walked by, like heading towards, the animation, see like the Little Mermaid or something. Mm-hmm. We look over, and they just do this double take, and then people just started running over. And so Bear's just like, hi, how are you? It's just like hugging the kids, taking pictures, and like going, next person come. Out of nowhere, this person from the park, this Disney person from studios, comes over, sees what's happening, leans in so I can hear, and says, you're not supposed to talk. And Bear turns and looks at him and says, what?
Oh, no.
And he looks up at Bear, you're not allowed to talk. And Bear says, sure I can. Watch me. He turns away and just continues on.
They had no clue that it was the actual actor.
And so that's why they went to like the Henson people and to Brick. And it's like, he's not allowed to talk. And they said, no, it's Bear. It's okay. And the guy says, no, he's not allowed to talk. Thinking like it's like a bear. And they said, no, it's the bear from the show. It's okay. And I think I actually ended up taking a picture with him before I left.
Was he like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to.
So then after that, that's when V Corp was this company that did all the live shows during the day. They did Sesame Street Live and Holiday on Ice and all those shows. And so they were also wanting to test the waters, like, could there be a Bear live show? So they started off small. They did like a mall show, like this little like version of the house that could actually like open up.
Right.
And had Bear, and then had puppet versions of the puppets, because that was the one thing that we didn't want to have like these like mutated like Chippendale sized Pippin Pops and like no, it's like keep them puppets because that's where they recognize them.
Right.
We traveled around the country, and it was a huge hit. And so Disney just bought the show. They just bought that set and just put it into, I think it was like stage 5, and they called it Bear in the Big Blue House live on stage. And they just had it there, and it was a huge success. It was like no question.
It was there for like many, many years.
It was there for many years because it was there for many, many years. And then somebody at Disney got the bright idea. It's like, hey, we got these other shows on Disney Channel. Yeah, maybe we could use the Bear Show to promote them as well. So it was like so suddenly like squeezing in all these other shows into the show. So Bear like started the show, and Bear and Luna wrapped up the show. But then there's all these other little shows.
Yeah, then you get
the Book of Pooh and
Mickey Mouse or whatever.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Yeah, it's like all that stuff. And then once Bear went off the air, that's when they took Bear out, and it became Playhouse Disney live on stage.
Right.
And just kept it going for forever. So yeah, it lasted it lasted, I think, overall, the puppet show entity lasted about 15 years.
Wow.
It started at Disney World, then it went to Disneyland, and then Disneyland closed it, and then finally Disney World closed it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, happens.
Yeah, it was like, but yeah, it always like threw people when Bear would actually like talk to them. And now it's like when people find out I'm Bear, they're like, no, really? Oh my gosh, you're my child. It's like, really? And like there's a doubt. I was like, it's like, no, you're kidding. And I would say, like, I could lie about many things. This is not one of them.
No, because Bear, that's your voice. You didn't like manipulate it.
Well, it was just like it's like a certain inflection I have.
Right. You're more soothing.
I called it my Uncle Noel tone, because whenever I would visit friends of mine, because back then I was single, so whenever I visit friends who had kids, I would just go into Uncle Noel mode. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? And do it. And then I became a dad, so it became that same kind of thing. So Bear is like the ultimate caregiver. He is like what every parent strives to be.
Yeah. But you're not, the typical parent isn't wrangling a monkey, a bear cub, and a mouse. So.
Yes. And trying to do other things, because that was the formula of the show. It was called, there actually was like a pattern to the show.
Right.
And the writing was called Bearus Interruptus, because Bear would always have a plan at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of his day, and it would always be interrupted. Constantly.
and then it's like Tutter would have a problem, then Ojo would have a problem,
the others would have a problem, and then we're hearing laughter. Oh, it must be Shadow. Hey, why don't we find her? Sure. I'm getting nothing done today. Sure, let's go find Shadow.
Yeah, let's just do this. My day's been ruined anyway, so why not?
What the heck?
So it's like it's like, do you still like look back and like watch some of the show?
Every now and then when like a clip pops up, like on Facebook or on YouTube or Twitter now, people like discovering it. And sometimes I watch it and go like, and have no memory like whatsoever of having done that. And I'm looking like, oh, okay. Sure, I did that. Yeah. Because the other thing was I couldn't like take my script inside. I couldn't keep it up inside anything. So I had to memorize everything. Right. So it's pretty much what I called garbage memory, where you just like memorize exactly what you need for this particular scene. And then once it's done, you just like throw it away.
Yeah. You don't need to do it anymore.
For the next one. Yeah. Just like, so a lot of times people say, oh, I remember that show and you did this, or that song you did this. And I'll say, honestly, no, I don't.
And it's like, especially during,
that's all the titles of episodes. It's like, I have no idea what it was about.
And like, especially, if you finish the scene and God forbid they have to do a pickup and you're already throwing it out and like, oh crap, I gotta do it again.
Yeah, just like one more time. Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah.
So it's fine. So it's like, in your mind, what do you think when you hear this? When you hear this guitar intro, what is going through your mind?
Really cool rock concert coming up. Nice riff, but it's pretty much like, it's so nice. First of all, the theme was written by Peter Lurie, who's like the master of children's like TV themes. He wrote the original good version of the Magic School Bus. So when you see the classic Magic School Bus, Peter Lurie wrote that. Peter was also the music director on Eureka's Castle. And so he became the music director on Bear. So he wrote the theme, and he also wrote, the classic goodbye song, like the most beautiful, saddest song you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
And so so now those little strums, it's kind of like, there are certain songs, certain themes, when you hear certain notes, you immediately know what it is, like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Dun, dun. So that's what it is now. So if you hear that, so many like kids who've grown up with Bear will suddenly be like, oh my God, it's my childhood.
Another $1.
Yeah.
Now I want to shift gears and I want to talk about something that you've been working on actually, I don't know how long you've been working on. It's called the Show Me Show.
Yes, I've been working on it for many years.
So now the premise of this is meant for children that have special needs and autism. And I find that very interesting because there are not many shows that are willing to tackle this sort of issue. I mean, Sesame Street's done it, but nobody else that I've seen has tackled this important thing because now the number of cases of autism is going up.
Yes.
So that means, a higher population. I mean, I'm one of those. So,
Right. So, yeah. And Sesame Street they have Julia. And so
Yes.
they make people aware of autism and of people with autistic and special needs so that when Julia, acts a certain way, then, in case somebody else happens to act that way, now you know why, because, yeah. And so it's an awareness thing. But my show would be the show Julia would watch because it's going to be for kids with autism and special needs. And so, and pretty much any kid could watch it, but it's specifically for kids with autism and special needs and just helping them cope with stuff that all kids should learn, but for them, it's a little more challenging, like personal space, change of plans, recognizing emotions in themselves and in other people, taking turns. And so I've been working on this for many years, and I have a channel on YouTube, the Show Me Show channel, and I've been putting up little videos just to give an idea of like what the show would be like. So any luck.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a series.
It's like,
and it's a niche market now because so many times a show has to be like, for a broad audience. And it's like, this one is for a niche audience. I think that's the new thing now. It's like,
I think so too.
A niche audience. So it's like a specific audience, and that's fine. And as you said, because of the fact that the numbers keep rising, there's always going to be an audience. I mean, I got the idea because so many parents of autism and special needs kids wrote me fan mail thanking me for Bear and how their kids, grown up, still will watch the show. And it's still very comforting for them on DVD or the VHS tape that they still have. And I realized the networks aren't going to do a show like this, like Bear or Mr. Rogers, like anytime soon. So that's why I'm trying. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's told you, but, Bear to me was like the Fred Rogers of puppets or the Bob Ross of puppets. It's like I could have it on in the background, when I'm, suffering from insomnia or whatever, and that'll put me to sleep because, Bear was just so calming.
I don't know how to take that. It's like, I was like, I thought our shows were much more interesting than that, but okay.
Well, it depends on the episode. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of snoozers, I'll admit. So yeah. One was called The Big Sleep, so it was about a sleep.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So I remember that one. That was a good one.
I think my favorite episode was the house call when Dr. Hogg,
yes,
Doc Hogg came in and Ojo was afraid to get shots, and I was Ojo for many years. I hated getting vaccines, but now it's just like.
Yeah, and pretty soon, like if you remember the song, like "Just Say Out," like it's going to come in handy very soon once those vaccines start rolling out. So
exactly, now that everybody's in quarantine, you've been, in quarantine for, this whole time we've all been, you've been taking advantage of, doing the cameos, doing the TikToks, and I follow you on TikTok as well. I mean, and I see just some amazing stuff, the Bear wearing the mask and everything. We need something like this on television as well. This is a current issue, and unfortunately, unlike Sesame Street, that's the only show that's really producing something like this. So yeah. I think now, since kids were born in this era, and it's gonna be with us for quite a long time, and I hate to admit that, we need to let these kids know that that hey, this is just a bump in the road. If we do this, and this, we'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what they'll be calling this generation, because every generation seems to have a title. So it might be Generation M for mask, or Generation, like C for COVID or something, but they'll have like some sort of tagline. But I see so many like little kids, like toddlers, wearing the masks. And I'm wondering, like, a lot of them don't see smiles anymore.
Yeah.
Walking down the street. And so occasionally I'll see like a little kid and like passing by, and I'll raise my eyebrows and I'll just like, with my mask on, just like wave.
Yeah.
And the kids will wave back. Or sometimes I'll look and the kid will wave first, just like being friendly and just like waving. So it's just
There
like,
you go.
So it's like not stopping you. But yeah, it's and also and then too, one of the issues for autistic and special needs kids and adults is sensory and touch, and having something like touching them. And so putting a mask on has been a very big issue for people this whole time, and the different strategies that have gone into helping like ease into that, because it is necessary. But for someone who has sensory issues, like how do you do that? So they have been online, like different steps and different techniques to like help get them accustomed to it. So, and as well as, change of plans, because, routine is very important. And then suddenly, being quarantined, being locked down, like you can't go outside, you can't go to the playground, you can't do the usual things you would do each day.
Right.
And so dealing with that has been hard for everybody, but extra hard for, people with autism and special needs, and then for their loved ones as well. So it's been a challenging time, which is the understatement of the year. But we're going to get through it.
And Bear's going to fix it all.
Yes. Look at my crook, he is.
Anyway, this is the Hirsh Show on the Nick and Daisy Network. Noel MacNeal, I want to thank you so much for taking your time and speaking with me tonight. It's been a big pleasure and somewhat of an honor. As once again, here's another $1. Someone grew up in my childhood.
Well, the childhood. I mean, that's what's been so nice, is like with the TikTok and the cameos. Also, I have like my podcast called Noel's Book Nook, and somebody tweeted today that, after like recent events of just like living in America, they were going to like listen to my podcast and just listen to Bear's voice tell them a story before bedtime.
That's what I mean, right?
Right, they just need it right now. So
yeah, especially after the last couple of days. Oof, yeesh.
Right. So, by the way, Kyle,
oh God, there he is.
This was really nice. Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
You are smelling really good.
Oh, thank you, Bear. Oh my God, I'm talking to Bear. Noel
Talk to him. Talk to me. Get on my shot.
Oh man, this is gonna be the thumbnail. Bear, Noel MacNeal, thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. You can check us out on Facebook at The Hirsh Show. Follow us on Twitter at The Hirsh Show. Check us out on Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you so much again. We'll see you next week for another exciting episode. And Bear, what do we always say at the end of the show?
The moon, the bear in the big blue house will be waiting for you to come
and play. This is so awesome. All right, everybody. Good night.
Good night.